I trusted the system to protect my wife. It failed. So I became the sentence they never saw coming. Hey there. So, this is a real story, my story, and it's about the night I truly understood what it meant to see red. You know the phrase, right? That sudden wave of anger so intense it feels like your vision's been painted over with rage? Well, I'd heard it before, sure, but I never really got it, not until that night. That night changed everything. I guess I should start from the beginning, give you a little background before we get to that moment. My name's Jason Miller and my wife, well, she was my wife, is Natalie Miller, née Natalie Brooks. We met back in high school and had been inseparable ever since. The kind of couple people talk about like it was written in the stars or some fairy tale junk. But trust me, there's no fairy tale at the end of this one. Natalie's family, well, let's just say they weren't thrilled when they found out she was dating a white guy. That's something she warned me about early on. You know how my folks are, she said once, biting her lip. Just because my sister's open-minded doesn't mean they all are. Her sister, Rachel, had always been the more level-headed one. Come on, Nat, she told her once, just give him a chance. Closed minds are ignorant ones. Still, Natalie wasn't so sure. Rachel, you dumped Carl and Terry. Why? Rachel had shrugged. Carl was a jerk and Terry cheated. End of story. And Natalie knew deep down I wasn't either of those guys. I'd always been upfront with her, picked her up and dropped her off right in front of her parents' place, even though I knew they weren't exactly fans of mine. Eventually, I told her I didn't want to keep sneaking around. If we were serious, it had to be out in the open. So we talked it through, one of those long, slow walks through the park, holding hands trying to figure out the future. That's when we agreed, I'd meet her parents first, then she'd meet mine. Her folks were cautious at best. Suspicious, more like. I still remember her sighing one day after yet another awkward dinner. Do I really have to spell it out for you, Jason? It's because of my skin. That's the only reason they're judging you. I didn't say much. Just nodded. Because what could I say? She was right. And while my family had always preached tolerance, I had heard a few offhand remarks from my sister that made me wonder where those attitudes really came from. Still, we stuck together. Through the tension. Through the whispers. Through the side eyes at school. And I was dead set on not screwing it up. Even my little brother pulled me aside once, gave me a nudge and said, "Don't blow this, man. She's the real deal." Things got serious fast. We'd been dating 3 months when Natalie decided we were ready to take things to the next level. It was after a Friday night ball game. The air was still warm, summer hanging on by a thread. I remember us driving up to the Bluffs in my '68 silver Mustang Fastback. That car had a roomy back seat and, well, we made good use of it that night. As we kissed in the dark, her voice cut through the quiet. "I'm ready if you are," she whispered, her eyes full of trust and something deeper. Something real. Little did I know that this moment, sweet, thrilling, full of promise, was just one of the final quiet ones before everything blew apart. I used to joke that the 4th of July was the perfect day to get married, not because I'm overly patriotic or anything but because, well, I'm the kind of guy who forgets dates. Natalie used to laugh and say, everyone should have fireworks on their anniversary. And honestly, that sounded perfect to me. Easy to remember. Festive. Loud. Kind of like our love story. Back then, everything felt right. Natalie, Tish I called her, she stayed on birth control so we didn't need to worry about protection, something we both weren't too fond of anyway. And even after tying the knot, we made time for each other. We didn't fall into that trap of letting routine drown out romance. She worked toward a degree in business and I chased what I always loved, computers. A degree in computer science just made sense for me. 2 years after we said our vows, we both graduated and landed jobs. Life felt like it was rolling forward, right on track. But then came a shift. One I didn't see coming. A few weeks before everything hit the fan, Tish had mentioned some stuff going on at her job. She was working at an ad agency as a project coordinator, managing a team that included a group of 5 guys. She brushed it off at first, said they were just being extra friendly. Tish had this way about her, warm, approachable, but never the kind of woman who sent mixed signals. She was kind, not flirtatious, and definitely not someone who made promises she didn't mean. Still, this group of guys seemed to be reading her all wrong. She told me about how they'd started getting bolder, crossing lines in a way that felt too close to harassment. At the time, we tried to laugh it off, chalked it up to them trying to win her over, even though her wedding ring was plain as day on her finger. I should have known better. But I didn't. Not until that night. It was the 4th of July, and we were heading to her company's Independence Day party. We were already dressed and ready to go. She looked absolutely stunning, like something out of a dream. I still remember the shimmer of her dress, the way her hair caught the light. She was glowing. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my job. The server was down and they needed me, now. I hated the timing, but Tish said she understood. We didn't argue. We'd always supported each other's careers, and she knew this was one of those can't-wait situations. I told her I'd be back as soon as I could and stepped out. Fired up my old V8 and headed off toward the office. But about 10 minutes into the drive, I shot her a quick text. Just something small, a love you, or see you soon kind of thing. No reply. That wasn't like her. Tish always answered, especially when we were apart. Another few minutes passed. Still nothing. That uneasy feeling started creeping in, slow at first like a cold wind under the door. I called her. Rang. No answer. Went to voicemail. Now the hairs on my neck were standing straight up. I tried again. This time it didn't even ring. Straight to voicemail like her phone had been turned off or, worse, like she shut me out. That's when something inside me changed. Like a switch had flipped. My stomach stopped twisting. My hands stopped shaking. The adrenaline that had been flooding my system suddenly became fuel. My thoughts snapped into focus and I felt calm. Cold but calm. I pressed down on the gas and headed back toward the party. My gut told me something was off, way off. And deep down I already knew. I just didn't want to believe it. When I got to the door, my hands weren't trembling anymore. But my heart? Yeah, that was another story. By the time I pulled up, I already knew something wasn't right. The house was too quiet, too still. I walked up fast, heart pounding, and tried the front door. Locked. Without even thinking, I threw my weight into a hard kick. The door crashed open, the latch snapping as it slammed against the wall. That moment is burned into my memory. The first thing I saw, before I could even process what I was looking at, was 5 men. Naked. Just standing there. And then, I saw Natalie. My wife. She was sprawled out on the bed, completely motionless. Unconscious. Time slowed down, then sped up, then stopped again. My body moved on instinct. I must have charged at them, maybe got a few hits in, I don't even know. I was seeing red again. That kind of rage that doesn't ask permission, doesn't wait for logic to catch up. I don't remember much after that. The next clear image in my head was the ceiling of the ambulance, flickering by in pieces. I was strapped to a gurney, pain shooting through me from everywhere. My face, my ribs, something in my leg. But all I could think about was her. My wife, I managed to croak, barely a whisper. One of the EMTs glanced down at me, offering a comforting smile that barely reached his eyes. She's in the other ambulance, sir. We're taking you both to the hospital. Hang in there. I closed my eyes, exhaling, clinging to those words like a life raft. But then came the shift. I caught a glimpse of another medic's face, his expression gentle but burdened. And I knew. I knew before he said a word. The tears were already falling before the words even hit me. I'm sorry, sir, but your wife lost the baby. I didn't cry out. I didn't scream. I just shattered. I've been angry before. I've had my fair share of bad days. But I'd never, not once, known rage like the kind that settled in my bones that night. Those men, if you can call them that, had not only violated my wife, they drugged her. Poisoned her body so badly she would have died if help hadn't come in time. And now they'd taken something else. Something innocent. Something that never even got a chance to live. Later, in the hospital bed, I lay wrapped in pain and silence. The doctor came in with a detective. I remember the nurse telling him to take it easy on me. My injuries were still fresh, my body broken. Detective Raines introduced himself and pulled up a chair beside me. Mr. Miller, I'm here to take your statement. You feeling up to it? I could barely speak, but I nodded. His voice was calm, measured, professional in a way I respected. He told me they had enough witnesses to charge all 5 men, and that the toxicology and assault reports from the hospital sealed the case. It's a slam dunk, he said. Mr. Walker, the CEO, is already scrambling to avoid a lawsuit. You've got every right to press charges. I gripped his hand and shook it. If you need me to testify, I will. Whatever it takes. He nodded once and left the room. I sat there, silent again, staring at nothing. A nurse came in shortly after when I pressed the call button. I thanked her softly, even as something inside me cracked a little deeper. When she checked in on Natalie's condition, I asked the one question still burning in my chest. She'll recover, right? The nurse paused. Physically? She'll heal. But emotionally, it'll take time. My voice dropped to a whisper. That little one never had a chance. And I'll never forget that. He looked down, pain flickering across his face as he shifted his weight, clearly unsure of what to say. I didn't give him much room to protest. If you're about to tell me I can't sit with my wife tonight, just save it, I said, voice low but firm. You're married too, right? I see the ring. If it were your wife lying in that room, what would you do? He didn't answer. Just gave me a long, steady look, nodded once and moved aside to let me through. Natalie's room was dim when I stepped in. The soft beeping of machines filled the space, steady but distant, like the world had gone muffled. I saw her lying there, motionless, a saline drip in the back of her hand and a monitor tracking every heartbeat. I walked quietly to the right side of her bed, pulled up a chair and sat down, gently wrapping my fingers around hers. You're going to be okay, sweetheart? I whispered even as the tears slid down my cheeks. Her face looked peaceful, untouched by the storm we were suddenly living in. I was pretty sure she didn't even know yet that we'd lost the baby. Some time passed, minutes maybe more, before she stirred. Slowly she opened her eyes, blinking like she was trying to remember where she was. She looked over at me and I gave her a soft smile through the ache in my chest. I remember the party, she said weakly, her voice still groggy. I got there, talked to some friends. Cindy helped keep those creeps off my back. Then Jim came over and offered to get me a refill on my soda. Said it was a peace offering. I took it. She paused, swallowing hard. Cindy went off to dance with her boyfriend. I started sipping the drink, and after that things got fuzzy. Really fuzzy. Then I blacked out. Her eyes darkened as she spoke, worry spreading across her face. They spiked it, didn't they? I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. She reached up, brushed away a tear, and looked like she was trying to hold it together. I thought it was all a nightmare, she whispered. But before I blacked out, I felt someone ripping my clothes. Her voice caught and she collapsed into tears, shaking against me. I climbed up onto the bed beside her and wrapped her in my arms, holding her as she sobbed into my shoulder. I didn't say a word. Just held her close, trying to absorb some of her pain even as my own chest felt like it was being crushed. That's when a soft knock came at the door. Mr. and Mrs. Miller? A nurse asked gently from the hallway. We both sniffled and turned our heads, still tangled in each other's arms. Yes, I said quietly. There's a detective here who'd like to speak with you. Is now a good time? Letitia nodded, wiping her face. It's okay. We sat up, trying to pull ourselves together as the detective stepped into the room. It was hard. She stood straight, her face calm but firm. We've taken statements from everyone in the office, she said, her tone measured. Everything matches up. We're moving forward with charges. Letitia's hands balled into fists. Put them away, she said through gritted teeth, her voice shaking. Put them away forever. I turned to her and gently took her face in my hands. Sweetheart, I said softly, we'll let the police and prosecutors handle this. Detective Raines told me it's a slam dunk. We might need to testify, but that's okay. If it means helping to lock them away, we'll do it. She nodded, breathing deep, still trembling. Later that night, I brought her overnight bag up to the room. She gave me a soft smile as I placed it on the little couch near the window. Thank you, baby, she said, her voice steadier this time. Anytime, beautiful, I replied, smiling as I leaned in and kissed her gently. I love you, I whispered against her forehead. I love you too, honey, she whispered back. We leaned into each other, foreheads pressed together, the silence between us full of everything words couldn't reach. Hey, I said, still whispering, when you're better, maybe we can try again. We can have another baby. She smiled through the tears, and for a moment, we let ourselves believe in that tiny flicker of hope. Even though weeks had passed, I was still torn up inside. That pain, it lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. Every time I thought I could breathe, another reminder would hit. And then came the sentencing. One by one, those cowards, the 5 men who had assaulted Natalie, stood before the judge. And one by one, they walked away with little more than slaps on the wrist. 90 days in county jail. That's all they got. 90 days for taking something from us we'd never get back. I sat there in disbelief as the gavel fell, my fists clenched tight, rage burning through every muscle in my body. Natalie was next to me, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. We were supposed to find comfort in the fact that they now had criminal records, that jobs and opportunities would be hard to come by once they got out. But it didn't feel like justice. Felt like a joke. As they were being led away, Jim, the ringleader, had the nerve to lean in our direction with this smug little grin. He didn't say anything, but that look was enough. Made my stomach turn. That man deserved so much more than 90 days. Later that evening, back at home, Natalie and I sat in silence for a long time. Then, softly, she turned to me, eyes still red from crying. I know you're angry, she said. So am I. But I love you, Jason. I know you love me. And tonight, I think I'm ready. I need you. I looked at her, unsure I heard her right. You mean? She nodded, her smile gentle but sure. Yes. We hadn't been intimate in nearly 2 months, not since everything happened. And in that moment, it wasn't just about the physical connection. It was about reclaiming something that was stolen. For both of us. As we leaned into each other, I felt more than just desire. I felt her strength, her trust, and for the first time in a long while, hope flickered again. But even as that moment gave me peace, something inside me hadn't let go. The justice system had failed us. Failed her. Failed our child. And I wasn't done. One of them, Jeffrey, had been let go from the agency, which made tracking him easy. Still living in his apartment, paid for by his wealthy mother. I knew his routine, his habits. And when I was sure he'd be alone, I made my move. He didn't even see it coming. The stun gun dropped him like a sack of bricks. He twitched on the floor as I calmly pulled out a pair of handcuffs, locked his wrists and ankles to a chair, and waited for him to come to. When he finally blinked up at me wide-eyed, I spoke slowly. Come. Dead serious. Another day of life. That's what I'm giving you. And I suggest you treat it as a gift. I held up my gloved hands. As you can see, I'm not leaving any fingerprints. No DNA. I've got an airtight alibi too, just in case you ever get the brilliant idea to report me. And if you do, I will come back. And next time, I won't be so generous. He nodded slowly, pale as a sheet, and I stood. Good, I said, then hit him with the stun gun again, just to make sure the message stuck. When it was done, I cleaned everything up, no traces left behind. Not a fingerprint. Not a thread. Then I slipped out the back, walked quietly through the complex, and made my way to my car at the far end of the lot. I got in, started the engine, and sat for a moment in the driver's seat, staring through the windshield. The night was quiet. But inside me, the storm hadn't passed. I sat in my car a few minutes longer, eyes closed, heart heavy, letting the silence press in around me. Revenge, they say, is a vulture. It doesn't come all at once. It circles you, tears pieces off bit by bit, until there's nothing left but bone and regret. And I knew that. I did. But it didn't stop me. This wasn't about impulse anymore. I had thought it through, carefully. Every angle. Every risk. Every consequence. And yet I kept walking forward. Funny thing is, the crack in everything came from the inside. Malcolm Martin, Letitia's older brother, was the first to find me. He's a cop with the SBPD, a former Marine, and when this all started, we weren't on speaking terms. But after he found out what really happened to his sister, and what I did to the men responsible, he didn't come to lock me up. He came to understand. We buried the hatchet that day. And while he couldn't officially be part of the case, he kept his ears open. It was his sister after all. His family too. What Letitia didn't know, what I never told her, was that most of those men, they wouldn't be walking away from this. Some things you plan for. Some things you finish. I had it all mapped out. Different scenarios. Backup routes. Contingencies. I even knew which one of them flipped on the others, the weak link. His name was Jason. I confronted him face to face. He looked like a wreck, and I could tell he wasn't breaking because of fear. Not entirely anyway. I know you turned on the others, I said low and calm. Rolled over on your buddies so fast the cops probably got whiplash. You really want them to find out you were the snitch. His face drained of color. I'm sorry, he said, tears brimming in his eyes. I'm really sorry, man. I should have stopped it. I should have done something. I always liked Letitia. I never wanted. You liked her? I cut him off. Not enough to stop it. Not enough to warn her. Don't pretend that makes a difference now. He had no defense. Just guilt. And I let that hang between us. Later, back at the hospital, Letitia looked at me with those deep, searching eyes. Baby, is something wrong? She asked softly. There's a reason I didn't request a protective order, I said, barely above a whisper. Her eyes narrowed. Why not? Because I need them somewhere at a specific time. Jason's helping me with that. Letitia stared at me in disbelief. You're planning to kill them, she said slowly. I just nodded. I love you too much to ever let them near you again, I told her. They didn't just take something from us, Letty. They shattered it. And I'm not going to wait around and hope the system finally gets it right. There was a long silence between us. Her expression was unreadable. And then, quietly, she said, It took me a long time to make peace with what happened. Some people can't. I get it. If those men are truly evil, I won't tell you not to do it. You'd be doing the world a favor. She reached for my hand, her grip trembling. But promise me one thing, just think. Think about what it will do to you. Think about how it'll change who you are. Think about what it'll do to us. And think about Tisha. I took a long breath, swallowing hard. She was right. Not because she stopped me, but because she reminded me who I still was. Who I could still be. Later that night I sat alone again. Thinking. An order of protection. It's just a piece of paper. It won't stop bullets. It won't stop someone from slipping through the cracks when no one's looking. But maybe, just maybe, it could keep me from becoming the very thing I was trying to destroy. I shook my head slowly, deliberately, each motion weighted with conviction. You heard what he said, Letty. You know what he's capable of, I said, my voice calm but firm. I'm not giving him a second chance, not with you, not with anyone else. She looked back at me, her eyes filled with fear, concern, maybe even understanding. But I kept going. If we let them walk, if we let them breathe easy, they'll do it again. To someone else. Some woman walking to her car. Someone's daughter. Someone's wife. You know that as well as I do. I didn't say the words I'm going to end them. I didn't need to. She knew. And I think a part of her accepted it. The stage was set. The final act was ready to unfold. The following Sunday just past noon my phone buzzed. It was Jeffrey. The weak link. The snitch. The pawn. They're heading to the warehouse, he said, his voice thin with nerves. Jim and the others. I told them what you said. They think it's about settling things. Cleaning the slate. I stared at the floor of my garage, my grip tightening around the steering wheel. Good, I said. I'll see you soon. I was already in motion by then, driving toward the place I'd spent weeks preparing. The old warehouse on the edge of the industrial district looked like it had been forgotten by time. But it was wired. Rigged. Ready. I slipped in through a side entrance and climbed up to the catwalks high above the ground floor. The gym bag beside me held everything I needed. A long-range taser, a close-range stun gun, duct tape, gloves, a Louisville Slugger, vice grips. Tools of precision, not chaos. Through a cracked window, I watched the cars pull up, one after another. Voices echoed off the concrete as they laughed, joked, totally unaware of what they were walking into. Man, that guy's paranoid, Jim muttered, snickering. They stepped into the second-floor office just like I knew they would. Step into my parlor, I whispered, said the spider to the fly. I pressed the red button on the remote in my hand. 3 things happened at once. The heavy metal door slammed shut and locked behind them. Floodlights I had rigged up burst to life, flooding the room with blinding white. And then, 6 Duralast gold car batteries wired to the metal floor plates sent a surge of power coursing through their boots. 12 volts, 50 amps. Enough to stun. Not kill. Not yet. When I stepped into the room they were crumpled, groaning, coughing, some still twitching from the shock. I looked down at Jim, who was struggling to crawl away, eyes wide with panic. You didn't just hurt my wife, I said, voice ice cold. You ended something before it even began. You killed our child. Because of what you and your pack did to her, because of the drugs you pumped into her system, my unborn son or daughter never took their first breath. I raised the pistol and pressed it to his forehead. It was a .32 caliber, small, light, not known for stopping power. But you see, Jim? I loaded this with hollow points. And when one of these tears through your skull, well, I doubt there'll be much of you left to bury. He started begging. Pleading. His voice cracked and tears rolled freely down his face. I didn't flinch. I want you to know something, I continued. You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for Jeffrey. I turned my gaze to him, Jeffrey standing frozen against the wall, shaking, sweat pouring down his face. He kept me updated. Told me when you were getting out. Helped arrange this little meeting. But see, even pawns outlive their usefulness. I turned, raised the gun. Sorry, Jeffy. Bang. His body dropped instantly, the back wall painted with betrayal and blood. Silence followed. The others stared at me horrified. Good. Let them feel what we felt. Let that terror settle deep in their bones so they carry it, if they survive this night. Their faces said everything, blank, wide-eyed, pale. Fear clinging to their skin like sweat. I stared at the remaining 4. Don't look so surprised, I said evenly, my tone more calm than I felt. Jeffrey helped me. That's why I made his end quick and clean. It was the only mercy he earned. I spared him from watching the rest of you die. They didn't move. Just sat there, shackled, broken, blinking up at me. You all know why you're here, don't you? I asked, almost conversational, like we were just shooting the breeze on a Sunday afternoon. No one here is innocent. No one here gets to pretend. I turned to Jim, the last one standing. You're out of bullets, I said. And you weren't smart enough to bring a spare mag. He snarled at me, trembling but trying hard to look defiant. was pathetic. I'll tell you what, I said, tightening the grip on the stun gun in my hand. Just wait right there. I walked calmly out of the office, down the narrow corridor, and disconnected the battery leads under the floor. No need for them now. Back inside, I pulled the stun gun from my bag and hit Jim square in the chest. He jerked violently, then collapsed. Out cold. Once he was down, I carefully undid the duct tape from his wrists and ankles. Then I reached behind my back and pulled my second weapon, my own Springfield XD-40. Not fancy. Not flashy. But solid. I waited for him to come to. When he finally blinked up at me, dazed and groggy, I was already kneeling in front of him, my gun trained squarely between his eyes. You won't get away with this, he spat, blood crusted in the corner of his mouth. They'll find you. They'll bury you for this. I didn't blink. You've got two choices, Jim, I told him, voice cold and clear. You can use that gun over there to shoot me. Or, you can use the last bullet on yourself. He went still. When I leave this room, the door will lock behind me automatically. Sure, the cops will bust it down eventually. But by the time they do, I gave a small shrug. I doubt they'll buy whatever story you come up with. Not with the evidence I've left. I backed toward the door, slow and steady, my bag slung over my shoulder and my pistol still aimed at his trembling face. He didn't move. Just sat there. Breathing shallow. Eyes flickering. I stepped out and pulled the door closed behind me. Click. Silence. I didn't wait to see what he chose. Later, I walked through the front door of our apartment, my body moving on autopilot. My hands were shaking as I dropped the gym bag just inside the entryway. Letitia was in the kitchen. She turned around slowly when she heard me. Jason, she whispered. Yeah, my voice cracked. I'm here. She gasped, dropping to her knees as she rushed toward me, arms thrown around my shoulders, clinging like she never wanted to let go. Oh my God, she sobbed. Oh my God, Boo, you're here. I wrapped my arms around her and held on. And that's when it finally broke. All of it. The weight I'd been carrying, the silence, the rage, I let it go. Right there in her arms. I sobbed like I hadn't since I was a kid. Because I'd never killed anyone before. But in the span of a few minutes, I became someone who had. I had taken 4 lives, no running from that now. And in a way, I'd pushed a 5th man into making a final choice of his own. Doesn't matter how justified it felt. In the eyes of the law, that's 5 souls. 5 deaths tied to my hands. 1st-degree murder. 4 counts. And yet, I don't regret protecting her. I just know I'd never go that far again, unless someone came for her. Or our child. I remember the exact moment everything shifted. It was right after we came back from Hawaii. We'd taken the trip to try and find a little joy again. Reconnect. Feel. And for the first time in a long while, we actually smiled without effort. Laughed without guilt. And then, a few days after we got home, Letitia started feeling off. Morning sickness. Just like before. We took a trip to her OB-GYN, not wanting to get our hopes too high. But there it was. The heartbeat. We were pregnant again. There were risks, of course. After the miscarriage, the doctor warned us this pregnancy would need extra care. More monitoring. More rest. And even more faith. But we were ready. And for the first time in what felt like forever, we were genuinely happy. As for the rest, justice had its own way of circling back. One of the women who had helped coordinate the attack, the one who fed information to the group and helped cover for them, was eventually found out. She was tried and convicted on multiple conspiracy charges tied directly to the assault. The court gave her 10 years. Let's just say, I doubt prison life will be easy for someone like her. And I don't lose sleep over it. Now, here I sit on the couch with Letitia nestled beside me, her head resting lightly against my shoulder. The glow of the television flickers across her face, but all I can see is her belly, round and full with our baby girl, who's due any week now. We made it. She's still working at Walker Advertising, though they've shifted things around and put better safeguards in place. As for me, I left the data entry firm behind. It just didn't fit anymore. Instead, I started my own IT consulting business. Built it from the ground up. It's not flashy, but it's steady. It's mine. And it gives me time to be here, with her. With them. There are nights when the weight still comes back. The things I've done, the memories I can't erase. But then Letty takes my hand. Or I hear that soft flutter of a heartbeat during a checkup. And I remember why I fought so hard. We buried our demons. We reclaimed our life. And now, we wait for a new one to begin.